Hey guys, let's talk about Emanuela Orlandi. Emanuela was born on January 14th, 1968, and disappeared on June 22nd, 1983, from Vatican City. Sightings of Emanuela in various places have been reported over the years, including inside Vatican City, but all have been unreliable. Emanuela was the fourth of 5 children of Ercole and Maria Orlandi. Her father was an employee of the Vatican Bank, according to some reports, or an employee of the papal household, according to others. In any event, the family lived inside Vatican City, and the children had free run of the Vatican Gardens, according to Pietro Orlandi, Emanuela's older brother. Emanuela was in her second year at Liceo Scientifico High School in Rome. Although the school year had concluded, she continued to take flute lessons 3 times a week at the Tommaso Ludovico da Vittoria School, connected with the Pontifical Institute of Sacred Music. She was also part of the choir of the Church of Sant'Anna de Palafreniere in the Vatican. Emanuela usually traveled by bus to the music school. She would get off the bus after a few stops and then walk 590 to 690 feet. On Wednesday, June 22, 1983, Emanuela was late to class. She had asked Pietro to ride on the bus to the class, but he had other commitments. Quote, "I've gone over it so many times, telling myself if only I had accompanied her, maybe it wouldn't have happened," unquote. He recalled decades later. Later that day, Emanuela called home, speaking to one of her sisters. Since then, there has been no trace of the teenager, and Italian investigators have been unable to reach a conclusion about what happened to her. She had explained her tardiness in a telephone conversation with her sister, stating that she said she had received a job offer from a representative of Avon Cosmetics. Her sister suggested she talk it over with their parents before making any decisions. According to some reports, Emanuela allegedly met with the Avon rep shortly before her music lesson. At the end of the lesson, Emanuela spoke of the job offer with a girlfriend, who then left the girl at a bus stop in the company of another girl. Emanuela was allegedly last seen getting into a large dark-colored BMW. At 3 p.m. on June 23rd, Emanuela's parents called the director of the music school to ask if any of their daughter's classmates had information. The police had suggested waiting because, quote, perhaps the girl was with friends, unquote. She was officially declared a missing person that day. Over the next 2 days, announcements of the disappearance were published with the telephone number of the Orlandi house in the newspapers, Second Tempo, Paese Sera, and Second Messaggero. At 6 p.m. on Saturday, June 25th, a phone call was received from a youth who claimed to be a 16-year-old boy named Pierluigi. He reported that he and his fiancée had met the missing girl in Piazza Navona that afternoon. The young man mentioned Emanuela's flute, her hair, and the glasses that the girl did not like to wear, along with other details that fit Emanuela. According to Pierluigi, Emanuela had just had a haircut and had introduced herself as Barbarella. He claimed she stated that she just had run away from home and was selling Avon products. On June 28th, a man calling himself Mario called the family and claimed to own a bar near Ponte Vittorio between the Vatican and the music school. The man said that a girl called Barbara, a new customer, had confided in him about being a fugitive from home, but said that she would return home for her sister's wedding. On June 30th, Rome was plastered with 3,000 posters displaying Emanuela's photograph. On Sunday, July 3rd, Pope John Paul II, during the Angelus, appeared to those responsible for Emanuela's disappearance, making the hypothesis of kidnapping official for the first time. 2 days later, the Orlandi family received the first number of anonymous phone calls. Emanuela was supposedly the prisoner of a terrorist group demanding the release of Mehmet Ali Adka, the Turkish man who shot the Pope in May 1981. No other information was given. In the following days, other calls were received, including one from a man identified as the American due to his apparent accent, who played a recording of Emanuela's voice over the phone. A few hours later, in another phone call to the Vatican, the same man suggested an exchange of Emanuela for Adka. The anonymous interlocutor mentioned the Mario and Pierluigi of the earlier telephone calls, defining them as, quote, members of the organization, unquote. On July 6th, a man with a young voice and an American accent informed the ANSA news agency of the demand for an Orlandi-Adka exchange, asking for the Pope's participation within 20 days and indicating that a basket in the public square near the Parliament would contain proof that Orlandi was indeed in his hands. These were to have been photocopies of her music school ID, a receipt, and a note handwritten by the kidnapped girl. However, the magistrate who was overseeing Orlandi's case did not believe that there was a credible connection between Orlandi's abduction and the Pope's assailant. On July 8th, a man with an alleged Middle Eastern accent telephoned one of Orlandi's classmates saying Orlandi was in his hands and that they had 20 days to make the exchange with Adka. The man also asked for a direct telephone line with then Secretary of State Agostino Castaroli. The line was installed on July 18th. A total of 16 telephone calls were made by the American from different public telephone booths. On the morning of May 14, 2001, the parish priest of the Gregory VII Church near the Vatican discovered a human skull of small dimensions and lacking a jaw in a bag with an image of Padre Pio in a confessional. It has not been officially identified as Orlandi's skull. Emanuela's father, Urkel, died in 2004, a month later after giving his last interview. Over the years, a number of theories regarding the motives for the crime have been broached in the Italian press. Adka, who once declared that Orlandi had been kidnapped by Bulgarian agents of the Grey Wolves, a Turkish ultranationalist neo-fascist youth organization of which Adka was a member, spoke about Orlandi during a prison interview with Italy's RAI state television, telling the interviewers that the girl was alive, not in danger, and living in a cloistered convent. He denied any direct knowledge of the girl's fate, though, saying that he had made, quote, some logical deductions, unquote. With no evidence to support these claims, the case was closed in July 1997. In mid-2000, Judge Ferdinando Impasmato, based on what he had learned about the Grey Wolves, declared that Orlandi, by then an adult, was living a perfectly integrated life in the Muslim community, and that she had probably lived for a long time in Paris. He remains the only supporter of this idea and of the Orlandi-Adka connection. In a letter published in 2006, Adka claimed that Emanuela Orlandi and another girl, Mirella Gregory, both of whom vanished in 1983, were abducted as part of a plan to secure his release from prison. He claimed that the girls were whisked away to a royal palace in Liechtenstein. Adka was temporarily released from an Istanbul prison after serving 25 years in Italy and Turkey for the murder of Abdi Apeki, a prominent Turkish journalist. However, he was quickly imprisoned again, the release seemingly a mistake. Adka was permanently released from a Turkish prison in January 2010. On November 9, 2010, Adka was interviewed by state television in Turkey, TRT's Cosmic Oda program, for the first time since his release the preceding January. In that interview, as well as declaring that the Vatican organized the assassination attempt, he claimed that Orlandi was kept as a prisoner by the Vatican and was then living in a Central European country as a nun in a Catholic monastery. He added that Orlandi's family could see their daughter whenever they liked, but that she was not allowed to leave the monastery. In 2011, the former Banda della Magliana member Antonio Mancini implied that Orlandi's kidnapping was one of a number of strikes that the gang was making against the Vatican in order to force the restitution of large amounts of money they had lent to the Vatican Bank through Roberta Calvi's Branco Ambrosiano. On May 14, 2012, Italian police opened the tomb of gangster Enrico De Pettis and took DNA samples, according to some reports at that time. An anonymous call to an Italian television program in 2005 said it contained evidence that would help the police explain Orlandi's disappearance, and in 2008, a former girlfriend of De Pettis said that De Pettis had once confessed to her that he had kidnapped Orlandi. No clues were found in the tomb linking De Pettis to Emanuela. In May 2012, when interest in the case was renewed, leading police to search the De Pettis tomb, then 85-year-old exorcist Father Gabriel Amorth claimed that Orlandi was kidnapped by a member of the Vatican police for sex parties and then murdered. Amorth claimed that officials of an unnamed foreign embassy were involved as well. On April 6, 2007, in a Good Friday sermon in St. Peter's Basilica. Reverend Raniero Cantalamessa advised the congregation to make amends for sins before dying. He said, "Don't carry your secret to the grave with you." This provoked speculation that he was suggesting someone at the Vatican held information about Emanuela's disappearance. Vatican spokesperson Reverend Federico Lombardi issued a statement that detailed Vatican cooperation with civil investigators over the years and said the Church had no objection to the opening of the De Pettis tomb, which was then being discussed. It said, quote, "As far as we know, there is nothing hidden, nor are there secrets in the Vatican to reveal on the subject. To continue to assert it is completely unjustified. Also, reiterate, yet again, all the material from the Vatican was handed over in its time to the investigating magistrates and to police authorities," unquote. In October 2018, remains found during renovation work on the Holy See's embassy to Italy in Rome were the subject of speculation related to the Orlandi affair. An attorney for the Orlandi family objected to the media attention. She said, quote, "We have no idea why the association with Emanuela was made. We're still asking ourselves why you'd find some bones and immediately assume they were Emanuela's," unquote. Test results released on February 1st, 2019 showed they were the remains of a Roman man who died between 190 and 230 AD. On July 10th, 2019, it was announced that the Vatican would be opening 2 tombs inside Vatican City, which would then be examined by forensic anthropologist Giovanni Arcudi. The tombs were the Tomb of the Angel, meant to contain the remains of Princess Sophie of Hohenlohe-Waldenburg-Bardenstein, and the adjacent one, which was meant to contain the remains of Duchess Charlotte Frederica of Mecklenburg-Schwerin. The exhumations took place on July 11, 2019. Neither Emanuela's body nor the bodies of the 2 princesses said to be buried were found. The Vatican is currently conducting an investigation into the whereabouts of the princesses' remains. According to a report on July 13, 2019, the Vatican announced that 2 sets of bones had been found near the tombs of the 2 princesses, raising speculation that one might be the remains of Emanuela. The bones were discovered as staff probed other locations to which the princesses' remains may have been moved within the cemetery of the Pontifical Teutonic College. Further inspection of the site revealed 2 ossuaries placed beneath the floor of an area inside the college, closed by a trapdoor. Reports by numerous news media outlets stated on July 20th, 2019, that the tombs had actually been found to be empty. According to the BBC, for example, that first July 2019 search, quote, "only deepened the mystery, as even the bones of 2 princesses thought to be there were missing," unquote. The same finding was reported by other news outlets too, including The Guardian. Thousands of human bones belonging to dozens of bodies were, however, found on July 20th in the underground ossuaries at the Teutonic College. Forensic investigators were to analyze the remains and were expected to use carbon-14 methods to obtain a rough estimate of their age.